We are back unpacking Safaricom's first half earnings results. We are joined virtually by the Acting Chief Finance Officer, Ms. Ilana Darcy. Welcome back, Ilana. Earlier on, we were discussing the numbers. You've taken us through an overview of the revenue base as well as the cost base and how we arrived at the final number, which is 33 billion in terms of profit after tax. Ilana, now help us understand. We want to know what is happening in terms of strategy. Are there points of innovation? You did earlier allude to the fact that you have upgraded your M-Pesa platform. What do you see as the way forward for innovation when it comes to Safaricom? And secondly, what does it look like? Are we going to keep seeing Safaricom here? Is there an opportunity to see Safaricom in markets such as Ethiopia, something that we have been following on in the public light? Over to you, Ilana.
Thank you. Yeah, so great question. In terms of innovation, on the core business, on the core telco side, I think, there's a lot more that can be done, especially from targeted, customer specific promotions. And so we plan to do that just to strengthen the core business that is there, be it, the voice and the data side of things. On the fixed side of things, we do see, opportunities in both home and enterprise, and especially in addressing that kind of SME sector, which is kind of the lifeblood of the economy here. For M-Pesa, the strategy we've communicated remains true. There's four main areas. So the first is, financial services, expanding our offerings, be it, wealth management, insurance, etc. The next one speaks to, lifestyle payment solution, which really, have an M-Pesa use case for everything that you need to do in your kind of day-to-day life. The third one is around, the business side of things, which speaks to, integrating more functionality for businesses, and that links to some of the things that we launched in the period in the first half, like the transacting till, the M-Pesa app, and the most recent one where you can kind of separate your personal and your business wallet within the same SIM. And then the last one is universal payment network. We did sign a partnership with Visa at the end of the year. We do have a strong innovation pipeline across all these four streams, but until we got formal CBK approval, etc., we can't speak about any of them in detail, but rest assured there's a strong pipeline there. And the ambition really is to become a fully fledged financial services provider. You also mentioned in terms of expansion. So yeah, Ethiopia is an opportunity that we're looking at, and the bid process will be in the next few months. There's still, a few things unclear as to whether it'll be an auction or a hybrid. We're still waiting on the invitation to tender. So we'll keep people abreast of what's going on there. And we are planning to take the lead it is a part of a consortium. We are planning to take the lead in that consortium, in that investment. And really Ethiopia remains the last kind of untapped opportunity in Africa. Aside from that, then there's also the M-Pesa joint venture, in terms of where we brought the brand home to Africa, and we own it now 50-50 between ourselves and Vodacom. That's really there to try and create leverage on what each of the individual markets across Africa have in terms of the product offerings, creating a center of excellence, really excelling the technology, the technological expertise, and leveraging on the partnerships that are there. For example, that Visa partnership, now we can speak to them about a 40 million plus kind of customer base on M-Pesa, rather than the 26 million base for Safaricom alone. So yeah, there's a lot in the pipeline, that the future looks really bright. So I think, a lot of interesting things coming up. Back to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think I have two more questions and then we can end this conversation. So, Ilana, now when you were saying that there's a lot to going for Safaricom, that's what I'm hearing from these numbers. And it's also interesting to hear that these numbers were not necessarily affected by factors that were intrinsic to Safaricom. It was actually the environment that you were actually operating in. So certainly congratulations to you and the team at Safaricom. Now, when we come back home, just trying to unpack strategy, has the competitive landscape changed? I'm sorry to put you sort of throw you under the bus here, but there's always a conversation of, should we look at Safaricom as a telecom? Should we look at Safaricom as a bank? Is the competitive landscape changing on voice, on M-Pesa, or should we just know that Safaricom is the color green and it's the place that we are able to engage with our family and members through voice, through data, and also being able to facilitate payments? Over to you, Ilana, for your comments.
Yeah, I think, Safaricom, we're definitely not just a telco. I think, the vision, as Peter articulated at our half-year earnings, is to be a purpose-led technology company. So that is much more than just, what we're currently doing. It's leveraging more and expanding the M-Pesa side of things, is also looking at new verticals, be it agriculture or health, and how we can expand into them. Now, the core underlying purpose of the company remains the same in terms of transforming lives. I think the competitive landscape will continue to change. I mean, the merger that was planned for Airtel and Telkom is now off, and Telkom have come out with a very clear strategy in terms of what they're looking at doing. The payments space and the financial services space is continuously in evolving and developing. I think the way we look at it is that, we've got a significant advantage with what M-Pesa has, is how we disrupt ourselves before we're disrupted, so that we evolve into that purpose-led technology company that is the vision.
All right.
Back over to you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So now to my final question. So when we are looking at Safaricom, for any investor, yes, it's good to hear what has happened in terms of the financial outlook and what to expect for the future. But ultimately, the one thing that investors like about Safaricom is the fact that they get to receive a dividend. Maybe you can just tell us, what is the dividend policy that Safaricom normally follows? And because of what is happening with COVID-19, is this still on the table, or could there be any adjustments to this? Over to you, Ilana.
Yeah, thanks. And, I can understand it being a concern and a question for investors. We've been meeting a lot with our corporate investors over the last few days, and it's a similar question that we're getting there. So, I think the basic message is rest assured, our dividend policy is to pay 80% of net income. That won't change in light of the performance of the P&L this year. I mean, we still have a very healthy balance sheet that can support dividend payment. It also won't change if we're successful with the bid into Ethiopia. There's no change to the dividend, and the plan to pay dividend. We'll continue to pay dividend. So I think, the corporate investors, as you can see from our share price, has been quite good. Actually, it's been relatively stable since earnings release. And the feedback we seem to be getting from our corporate investors is, look, we know it's going to be a tough year, but they really do see that Safaricom is very well placed to bounce back from this, especially when we return to charging. The long-term future growth of the business is still very, very clear. And thankfully, most of our investors are have the long-term vision in their sights, which I think led to the share price stability. So, I'd say, no change to the dividend payout.
Okay. And is there anything else when we are looking at the earnings that I might have missed that you want to bring out when anyone is trying to unpack these particular numbers? Over to you, Ilana.
Thanks. No, I think you've covered it very comprehensively, I must say. So, I think you've covered off all the main points. So,
okay, thank you. Okay, so then you can leave us with a parting shot. Back to you, Ilana, just a parting shot on these numbers.
Thank you. So thanks for inviting me here today, and don't know what to say.
Okay, not to worry. It was certainly such a pleasure for you just accepting our invitation and just helping us understand these numbers. We always appreciate it, because what we try and do here on Markets Today at Metropole TV with the team is just unpack the numbers and make it easier for investors to understand. That was a one-on-one on Safaricom's half-year numbers. These numbers were down 6 percentage points to 33 billion shillings over the period. What we've heard from Ilana Darcy, who is the Acting Chief Finance Officer, is a couple of interesting reads. First and foremost, she says that the fact that 1,000 shillings and below any transfer payments was actually zero rated, meaning it wasn't charged, actually improved the number of M-Pesa users for that particular base. The value of transactions was up 60% over that period just by zero rating it. In other words, at a national level, the government of Kenya was trying to get us cashless and getting us onto the digital platform, and they were able to succeed by zero rating it. Now, yes, the numbers are down 6 percentage points for the period, but what we are hearing is once this company goes back to charging for M-Pesa payments, then there could be more value to be unpacked. In other words, at the current price levels, if you are looking at it for a longer period, there is some value to be unpacked, largely based on looking at M-Pesa. Second thing that I heard Ms. Darcy say is the fact that Fuliza increased in terms of the usage. There was a 50% increase in terms of the number of people who are coming into the Fuliza space on a day-to-day basis. Fuliza is a debt product akin to a credit card that Safaricom offers off its M-Pesa platform. It's an interesting fact to appreciate that people have the appetite for borrowing. But on the flip side, did you know that only 4% of the Safaricom holding is owned by retail investors? In other words, most of the individuals who use Safaricom as a product are preferring to borrow more as opposed to investing. Based on this conversation, I would actually challenge you to evaluate buying Safaricom as a stock, because today, to invest in it, you just need to open an account on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. You need to buy a minimum of 100 shares. The price is priced at 30 shillings per share, meaning 30 times 100 is 3,000 shillings per share, and you hold it for the longer term. We absolutely must act on the information that we get and change the narrative, as opposed to being people who are constantly consuming Fuliza day in, day out. How about challenging yourself and saying, what have we heard about Safaricom? It's improving in terms of its outlook. How can you earn a dividend? 80%. That's the dividend payout that Safaricom has been doing and will continue doing. So something for you to consider over and above just being an ordinary and common and recurrent consumer of the M-Pesa product. That's all we had for you today, looking at Safaricom, unpacking these numbers. I would invite you to go to the Metropole TV page on YouTube and subscribe, because over the last couple of days, we have spoken to analysts to unpack these numbers, and we've been able to get corporate access to Safaricom to also understand the numbers. Alternatively, our SMS line is 20146. If there's any additional information that you would like to know on Safaricom in terms of what did the numbers mean, how can you become an investor in this particular stock, absolutely anything to do with Safaricom or any other particular stock, we're happy to do that. That's all we had for you this day. Thank you for your time, and see you tomorrow, same time.